Mr. Rutland, how exactly do you choose your targets?
We choose our targets based on their military worth. The Hamas has, instead of investing in health, education and welfare, has invested in an enormous military infrastructure, many of it based in the homes of their commanders. And we attack those targets that are responsible for launching rockets against Israel.
Okay, well, we were just talking to our correspondent of our sister channel based there in Gaza. He gave us a first-hand account of what he saw. A major media outlet was hit in Gaza City. Do you think the journalists were responsible for the attacks on the Israeli territory?
I can't comment on that specific case, but I can tell you that Hamas TV broadcasts messages of hate, instructions to launch suicide bombings, and is also used by the Hamas to distribute messages to their operatives. I don't know whether it was Hamas TV that was hit because I'm not familiar with the case that you're referring to.
Okay, Benjamin, when will the operation end?
The operation will go on until we've achieved our aim, which is to drastically reduce the number of rockets fired on Israeli civilians. We hope that it will be as short as possible for the sake of our civilians, 1 million of whom are in bomb shelters, for the sake of our soldiers who are bravely risking their lives, and also for the sake of the Palestinian civilians who are victims as much of the Hamas as we are.
All right, thank you for making the time to talk to us. Now, let's go back to Paula on the Israeli-Gaza border. Paula, what efforts are being made on the diplomatic front?
Well, there's a flurry of diplomatic activity happening mostly in Jerusalem. That is some 150 kilometers from where I'm standing here on the Gaza border, and nothing that is being said or being tried to be achieved in Jerusalem is actually filtering down to here. Certainly here on the border, the situation is as intense and as stressful as it has been for the past 11 days. We do know that the Russian envoy met with the Palestinian president, Mahmoud Abbas, at his offices in the West Bank city of Ramallah. Russia has offered to send some 24 tons of humanitarian aid to the Palestinian population, and the Palestinian president thanking the Russian government for doing this. Earlier, there was a telephone conversation between the Russian president and the Palestinian president. The Palestinian president, Mahmoud Abbas, again in that conversation reiterating his thanks for Russia's call for a ceasefire. And this is essentially what we're hearing from the international community, calls for both sides to agree to some kind of ceasefire. But so far, neither side heeding that call. Israel insisting that Hamas stop its rocket firing into southern Israel first, insisting that some kind of international mechanism is put into place to end this conflict, and at the same time some kind of international mechanism that will prevent weapons from being smuggled to Hamas through the Egypt-Gaza border. Hamas, for its side, is insisting that Israel stop with this operation in Gaza, and also that it allow for more aid to come in through the Israel-Gaza border crossings. The catch-22 situation is that both sides want the other side to heed to the ceasefire conditions first, and nobody wants to be the first one to do that.
Paula, thank you for that update. And now a question for Saeed Suwerki, an Arab correspondent for our sister channel, Russia Al-Yom. One more question for you. What's the situation there with the humanitarian aid? Do you see any supplies getting through?
If you refer to the situation in Gaza, the situation is drastic and very tragic. Months ago, people in Gaza did not receive any humanitarian aid. All the crossings were closed at a long time ago. Many people, after the beginning of this war, which the civilians are paying its cost, we are talking about figures issued by the Ministry of Health, which says that they are unable to provide the medicines for people and aid for people. UNRWA is also helpless to provide medicine and aid to the civilians. Even the schools which were opened by UNRWA They were all they ran away from the shelling. Women and children need covers and heating measures and other aids which were supposed to be supplied by UNRWA. It is a tragic situation. We cannot actually give you an actual picture of the tragic situation there. The civilians are receiving nothing but killing and death and hunger because of being unable to get medicines and other humanitarian aids.
Well, thank you for that update. That was correspondent Saeed Suwaryand from RT's Arabic channel, and Israeli Army spokesman Benjamin Rutland, as well as our correspondent Paul Aslia from the Israel-Gaza border. Do stay with us as we keep a close eye on the situation developing there in Gaza.